Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
All right. Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Gina Smith with me here today. Gina has more than 30 years of experience working for corporate giants, and through her journey has become a successful performance coach for high achievers, helping them get back their time and control over their lives. Welcome to the show, Gina.
Hey, Tim. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to join you today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, me too. Thank you again. So let's back up. Can you fill in some of the gaps there? So like that's a lot of experience, and then we'll talk about how your journey's changed over time.
Okay, so I have lots of parts of my background. I've moved around a lot. I grew up as a military brat. I served for 5 years in the Air Force, and
nice. Thank you.
Entered time in corporate life. I actually started my journey in HR, and I spent about 5 years in HR before moving on to sales, and spent the bulk of my career, almost 30 years, in medical sales, selling high volume consumable products to hospitals in their big procedure areas like the operating room, cath lab, radiology, labor and delivery. Worked for the giants in the industry, Cardinal Health, Owens and Minor, B. Braun Medical. And I just came to a point in 2021 when internally I knew it was time to make a change, and I'd given everything I could to that career. I even had opportunity to continue, but it was just not my time to continue, and decided to call it a day. I lived on the East Coast for 26 years.
Okay.
2 of those years in Connecticut, 10 of those years in Ohio.
Did COVID give you a little time to reflect and to sort of to think about this stuff? Okay.
Absolutely. And let me finish that sentence and I'll talk about the COVID effect. So when I did decide to end my career, I have family out here in Phoenix who'd been trying to get me to move to this area for years. And a few years ago, Phoenix just didn't excite me. And then maybe the last 5 years, it sort of caught on a little bit more.
Okay.
And I'm loving it now, though. But COVID had a big effect on me. One, as a salesperson, and even I was a salesperson for about half of my career. Then I was a sales leader, a regional sales leader, the remainder of my career. So whatever that role was, I was only working in an office. Maybe I had one office day, I'd give myself a week. And then the other 4 days of the week, I was out calling on customers, in front of customers. That's the thing I really loved about sales, was being in front of the customer, getting to know them, getting to know the real challenges they had, and helping them problem solve something with the products I had to offer. And COVID grounded us. And I found myself in a job that was an office job. And a couple of things happened. Our corporation just adapted Teams around the time that COVID happened and started really enforcing us having video meetings. We never heard
the software Teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, the software Teams. We had never really used video meetings before that. Like, it was on our computers. No one ever used it. And when we got grounded, our schedules were literally piled up all day with meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting on Teams, which is, the equivalent of Zoom. And because of the uncertainty of the disease, we couldn't go into hospitals. I had a product that was did not have to be demonstrated on its use. So unless you had a product that you had to demo or monitor in some way, you weren't even allowed to go into most hospitals. And it really warned me to be stuck in my house all the time, just sitting behind a computer, doing meetings on a computer. I mean, we would literally hang up. One day, my boss and I were joking. We would hang up on one call and log into another call and be like, I just saw you. And sometimes it's the same group of people, but just some different topic or something.
Yep.
That really took a lot out of me, because it took out that the people part that I loved about selling, and the learning part that I loved about selling. There's things I can learn, could learn by being in a hospital, in the environment, the clinical environment where things were. that I cannot learn sitting behind a computer.
Right. And this is great. This is great, but it's not the same as us having coffee.
Right, exactly. It's exactly not the same as us really meeting in a coffee shop. So that took a lot out of me. Just it was just really mentally hard on me to just be contained all of that time, not including the other restrictions that were in place. I lived in Ohio at the time, so a lot of things were closed down, and just not even, again, because of the uncertainty, not even interacting with people that, that were just friends or anything.
Right.
And then I realized how far away I was from my family.
Okay. Sure.
And I could have risked a trip out here, but my mother's elderly. My mother and her husband, they're in their 80s. My brother and his wife had both had cancer, so I didn't want to risk bringing disease to them
Right.
wittingly by traveling on an airplane and through an airport. So I really didn't see them for like a year and a half. And I just thought, for the next thing that happens, I want to be my family.
Okay.
Friends
Sure.
are great. I had wonderful friends that are like family, but there's really nothing like your real family.
Right. I think
So,
priorities changed a little, maybe.
yeah, all those things kind of added up to it's really time to call it a day on this career. And then looking forward, I could see that a lot of our sales activity would shift to Zoom. We already had hospital organizations begin to tell us, hey, we like meeting like this. You don't really have to come here unless we really, really need you to do that. And I thought, I am not looking forward to more years of
Sure.
sitting behind a desk working on Zoom, because again, the joy of what I loved as a salesperson, even in a leadership role, was gone. And so all those things kind of coalesced to say
Right.
it's time to go and go on to whatever is the next chapter of your life.
Yeah, I feel you. So it sounds like you didn't have an opportunity to grow anymore. Or not in a way you wanted to, that fit
Not
your
in the way I
strengths.
wanted
Right.
to,
Right.
yeah. Not in a way I wanted to, and I could see the landscape would really change in a way that, yeah, that wasn't going to suit me very well. The other thing that happened is in 2020, I had two friends die who were younger than me, and they were people who seemed like perfectly healthy people.
Right.
They both had extremely rare cancers that were like diagnosed and they were gone a few months later. And I just
Right.
thought, I've done well in corporate. Corporate was good to me, I'm not going to lie, but I don't want to be hanging around when I'm 70. And
Right.
life is short. I just had two people I care about die that I would have never, people have said, who do you think is going to die? I would have never picked their names out of a box. And it's like, I want to make sure I live more fully the kind of life I want to live.
Yep.
Just
I hear you.
having experienced that.
I had a couple of my best friends die, one late 30s, one 40s, late 40s, and they were healthy men. So yeah, it's carpe diem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seize it.
So when I made that decision, I also made a decision that I didn't need to live in the Northeast anymore. There's
Okay.
something I love about I love the energy of the East Coast, and I love the energy of the
Sure.
East. I got tired of the weather.
You can always visit. You can live wherever you want. You can always change your mind and go back too, right? That's
Exactly. Yeah, probably not going to happen.
well, it is for our viewers here. It's June in 2024. It's the heat is on here in Phoenix, and we think about moving for a couple months here, or at
Yeah,
least traveling more.
it's just having that option, the ability to go away for those couple of months and then come back. Yeah.
Right. Right. Excellent. Well, and your point on relationships is very big. That's something I didn't appreciate coming from science. And I
Mm,
mentioned this earlier. The podcast is a great way for me to network, right, and start building
yes.
those relationships, because I didn't appreciate it, right? I didn't appreciate that. Well, like in school, you're taught not to cheat, do your own your answers by yourself or whatever. But in the real world, if you have a problem, you can leverage all your resources and other people. And it's true, and it's helped me a lot. And I'm just trying to grow my network and help other people out. So this is that point about leveraging relationships is well received over here.
Yeah, I mean, I need to do the same thing. I'm new to Phoenix. I don't really know lots of people here, and I know this is a vigorous business environment, and that there are,
Mhm.
there's so many people here now. And so underlying, what I want to do in the world is to be able to serve people and to be able to help them have better lives than they're having today.
Right.
And to really optimize the good things in their lives, and bring it all together in one piece. So just getting to know more people, trying to figure out where my services fit in or my personality fits in, and the kind of people, finding the people that are looking for me that I haven't found yet.
Sure, sure.
I'm just, it sounds corny. I'm just still the ultimate people person. I just love people in all their variety, interested in people, interested in knowing about them and in understanding them, and just knowing who they are.
Yep, 100%. That's something I didn't fully appreciate earlier myself. As I guess this is a bit of a gender thing where girls generally like relationships and people more, and guys like stuff more, right? So more likely to be an engineer or mechanic or or something and have their toys, and women more likely to be nurses or sales or social environments. Um, but if you go off and as a hermit and you do amazing stuff and you never share it with anyone, what good is it? Right?
Exactly.
And then you die, and you found the cure for cancer, whatever, and you died, and never had any deep, meaningful relationships with anyone else. That'd be a real shame.
Yeah, and I think this life where I'm trying to build a business, it can be very isolating, particularly if you don't know a lot of people. And then figuring out the places you do go so that you are um, spending your time wisely, with the right group of
Sure,
people in the right places, is something that I'm still figuring out.
sure. And it's lonely being an
And it's
entrepreneur.
lonely. Yeah. It's lonely being an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yep. So looking back at your life's journey so far, can you share an instance that you believe significantly contributed to your wealth and success? Your sort of, maybe it's your drive or sales. I don't know if the being in the service helped with that or what.
Um, Gosh, it all plays a part in it, but
Sure.
I think one of the things before I went into sales, I would have never pictured myself as a salesperson, because our images of salespeople are these
Right.
like loud, talkative, Glengarry, Glen Ross kind of guys.
Right.
Or salespeople are portrayed in movies, they're like sleazy auto
Right.
salespeople or whatever. And there's so many different kinds of sales roles and different kinds of products. And I just happened to land in a space with a product that it was a very big consultative sale. It was a kind of a project related sale. And so all the things I like to do, like solve problems, um, help people learn more new things, being in a hospital clinical environment, things are always changing. So you're always learning something new, and involved with a lot of people face to face just
Right.
really suited me. And there was nothing about the big loud salesperson as part of that. Actually, that would not even have worked in that whole sales environment.
Right. Right.
And
And go ahead.
just learning all of that, and I found myself just really loving it and really able to take it on to really be successful in that kind of selling in that kind of environment.
Right. And it's the environments are many nowadays. And sales have a lot of forms nowadays. Not that it's changed, but I didn't appreciate how much of life is sales. So many careers, everything, interacting with people. It's a very broad field in itself and crazy important.
Yeah, there's a part of me that believes we're always selling. And kind of what led me into sales, I was in human resources and was doing a project in one of the company that I worked for at the time, in one of our large distribution centers. And I just gotten over the probably every year for the last 3 or 4 years, come toward the end of the year when companies are trying to make their number, you start laying off people. And I started to just get so tired of like, okay, it's second week of December. We're going to start telling people they don't have their jobs anymore. And I got really tired of that. But while I was doing this project, this was a time when the regional sales managers actually had offices in a distribution center building. And I'd
Okay.
gotten to them because I did this project for a year. And I just walked in one day and I was talking to one of the guys, and he's like, "We can't find anybody for this job." And I had I was like, "I'm so tired of HR. Tell me what it is." And he told me about it. It's like, okay, I could figure that out.
Okay.
And like in HR, it's a lot of selling. You're selling the company to people you want to recruit and hire. Sometimes you're selling the company to the people who work there, who are just, not
Right.
happy.
Right.
Or, okay, now we're changing from this kind of insurance to that. Or this might have been right around the time when companies stopped doing retirement and everything became a 401k. But somehow you're always selling something. It doesn't,
Right.
on the surface, it doesn't seem like it, but you're
Right.
selling ideas all the time.
It's yeah, depending upon how you frame it, different leadership styles, et cetera, are type of
Mhm.
sales, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but I found myself really successful in this hospital product selling, and I really loved it. And I ended up doing that for the next, I think, 27 plus years.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So what would, speaking of leadership style, what would you say, how would you describe your leadership style?
I am a servant leader. So
Okay.
don't understand that the whole concept of servant leadership is not that you're subordinate to the people you lead, but that your job is to serve them. So one, how can I understand them individually? Because people have different styles. And then how can I work with people with their style of working and learning and communicating and understanding? And then how can I do the high level things that help make things possible for them?
Right.
If we've got to negotiate a contract, then how can I help get terms for management that make it possible for us to negotiate a contract? If we got to have a difficult conversation with a customer, then what part do I need to play in making sure that that's
Right.
successful, and that we walk away with both what we need and what the customer needs? If they're having a problem or a roadblock, how can I help you figure this out? How to get from A to B if you're having a struggle getting from A to B. So if I serve my team, then I will be successful. I don't have
Right.
to work, I don't have to work hard outside of that, and really giving my best to serving my team and being able to be completely transparent with people, and letting them know I'm completely open. You can tell me anything, but tell me now.
Right. Right.
Tell me
In
now.
building your team, what sort of key traits do you prioritize or look for, and why?
I looked for people who are good communicators, who are well organized, because anybody can learn anything. You can learn a new product or
Right.
something. When I was in sales, I obviously looked for some number of years of sales experience, and preferably at the time in a hospital environment, because it's its own world versus some other kinds of businesses. I don't think I ever hired anybody outside of that realm, just because it's a big leap to get in and understand all the dynamics within a hospital. Looking for people who are good communicators, both written and spoken, and people who can um, work independently and are self-motivated. One time in an interview, a person asked me, what do I do to motivate people? I don't do anything to motivate people. I mean, if you're in sales and you're not self-motivated, it's already a problem.
Right. Right.
Now, do I do things to coach people and help them through problems? Yes. That's not motivation. I
Right.
don't, you're not going to get a rah-rah from me.
Right.
Because if you're in this environment, I mean, you're working independent. We worked independently, no offices. We had one sales meeting a year. Um, obviously we had some cadence for things like pipeline calls and things like that. But otherwise, you're getting up every day making your own schedule. Every
Right.
week, you're making your own schedule. So you have to have the motivation to get the calendar out and do that. You have to have the motivation that really every day I'm going to get up and get out of my house and go make these sales calls.
Right.
Or do them on the phone or over Zoom or, whatever technology we have today. I'm just thinking of a funny story. A guy, it wasn't on my team, but we worked with and realized he never really got out to do anything. We call them slippers because it's like, we're like, are
Yeah.
there slippers? He's just not getting out. You could tell he wasn't getting out doing anything. So if you don't have that internal motivation in this realm, I think in anything, but particularly in sales, you're not going to make it.
How do you, okay, so you can't make people nice per se. You can't motivate them. But how about fostering innovation, right? How do you encourage your team to think creatively?
I think when encouraging them to think creatively when there's a problem or something we need to solve, then being open to people, okay, throw out some ideas. Let's look at what we can do. We often had to be very creative in writing contracts. So what can we creatively offer that might appeal to this customer or our health system? What can we creatively design for this or that? How can you creatively make sure you're hitting your number? How can
Right.
you creatively make sure you're getting through the week with all the things you need to do, the things that say part of our normal job requires, and often there's other like corporate stuff that you've got to do or got to complete or got to fill out. And
Okay.
the worst thing I hated getting is like, I don't want to get a message that you haven't completed your annual training or whatever. The stuff pops up on your computer. You have a
Mhm.
deadline to do it, just do it. So that's how I did that. I hate to say in the field I was in, it's not, sales doesn't get to do a lot of the innovation.
Okay. Okay.
Innovation happens usually on the product or in marketing,
Okay. I
and
am
not necessarily in the sales realm.
okay. Okay. I am thinking of an example though. I was reading a book recently, Profit First, which
Mm.
if are you familiar with that one?
Mm.
It was a recent version, so it was talking about somebody who implemented the accounting practices that from the original book like 10 years ago, and minor league ball team was struggling and not profitable, and they turned around, and I don't know if you've heard of the Savannah Bananas, but
No.
they're the most popular, most profitable minor league ball team now, and it's they travel extensively. They do all sorts of stuff, but it's I was thinking of creativity and how constraints seem to bring out the creativity, right? Like artists will do that. They'll be like,
Mm.
if you tell them here's a blank canvas and here's every type of medium, they're like, but if you say, oh, you can only use blue pastel and charcoal and this rubber stamp, then they can get to work, and then they get all creative, and then they can figure stuff out. And so in that case, they constrained like the marketing and the sales or whatever for finances and stuff, and they had to figure out all sorts of other ways to get things to go. And that was one example of how I think constraints can maybe be a good way to encourage some different thinking.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why most of our creativity came out when we had to make a deal.
Right.
Creatively figure out what are the pieces we need to put together to make a deal that's appealing to this particular customer, that shows them the value. Sometimes we knew the value they wanted to see, sometimes we didn't. And how do we do that? And maybe it's some whole new idea that no one's ever proposed before in a contract, or and sometimes that would come from a discussion with the customer. What about this?
Right.
What about that? Or maybe they'd made a deal with someone else saying, can you possibly do this? And it might be something new that we brought to the company saying, listen, if we could do this, that would appeal to the customer, and we could get this deal. So that's probably the biggest place we could use our creativity.
Okay.
There are all these other constraints being in a large corporation.
Sure.
I think it's probably easier when you're in a small organization, but the big giants. Yeah.
Right.
Floors full of lawyers and accountants.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So in your current industry, sales training and leadership and personal development, what trends excite you, and how are you preparing to leverage them for your own growth and impact?
So I'm getting growing excitement about the usability of AI. And
Right.
I know AI, right? I know there's a lot of controversy about AI now because just like anything we have access to, some people are misusing AI, some people are overusing AI. But I think, again, especially for someone who's basically a solopreneur, I don't have a team or anything like that at this point in time. Learning how to use AI to help me do more work better,
Mhm.
not just spit out my work for me, but at least provide some frameworks for me for,
Right.
say, social media content, for
It's like
presentation.
having an assistant.
It's like having an assistant and using AI and the tools that people are developing, um, trying to learn like how to do the right kind of prompts or whatever to get the
Mhm.
information you want to use for your business. I mean, AI is not going to go away. They're not going to legislate it away or
Right.
anything like that. I'm not afraid of it. And that's the biggest thing I'm embracing moving forward is how do I use AI to be an assistant to me, for the things I want to do that without it require a lot of time.
Right. That's a great point. And I think, to your strengths again in relationships, that's going to be a big thing moving forward, in my opinion, is the human factor, right?
Mhm.
Is people, particularly over COVID and stuff, there's a few, and there's generational differences as well, but um, there's going to be a lot of things are automated, and some things that can't be are going to be even more valuable, and being able to manage people, the human
Mhm.
resources and stuff is going to be extra important.
Yeah, I mean, I could use AI to help me draft something, but I still have to give it my voice.
Right.
AI, no matter what prompts it gives me, isn't going to be my authentic voice. So, but maybe it's something I can edit through
Right.
more quickly than having to compose a whole thing.
But also knowing what a Gen Z versus a millennial, where they're coming from, what motivates them, how to relate to them, and all that stuff is not. I've yet to see uh, that personal level stuff. Maybe someday, but right now, the human connection, the factor is very, very important.
Yeah. I just
But
read an article about something called video AI, and it was talking about even taking something like this,
mhm,
and I haven't tried it yet, applying this and this person who used it, who's kind of a growing expert on AI, got like 25 clips of like mini clips of things they could use, um, for their social media by using this video AI, which divided it all up into little clips and segments. So, I mean, for someone like you or for me, how easy, how much easier would life be?
right.
Um,
I've
as
tried.
opposed,
For like social media clips and short
yeah.
form content and stuff. I have tried that. I've taken like a podcast interview I've done on somebody else's show, and it automatically grabs sections and formats it
Mhm.
and does it and does all that. But it didn't pick the spots that were,
Oh,
so I had to
okay.
go through, and like maybe 1 out of 6 were kind of right. And but if you tell it the timestamps, what the content that's important, then it can do the rest, you know.
Okay. That's good to
Right.
know.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of fascinating stuff going on right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This is the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast. So I like to talk about, on a personal and professional level, what you're doing to get that prosperity moving forward. Is it investments, working on your business, any legacy plans? Can you talk to anything on there?
So it's working on my business, and I'm creating a business that involves a few different segments.
Okay.
One is coaching people that I know the place I was in corporate before I made some changes to my own life of being just completely at capacity, and all of my capacity was given to work. Work has taken over many, many people's lives, although they don't want to admit it. And the refrain I hear from them is, I don't have time. So for those things that enrich your life personally, they don't have time for. But people can make choices about how to change the decisions and the boundaries and what they do in life to still have that career, the money, the success,
Sure.
but on their own terms in a different way. So I work coaching to help people do that and to solve other problems as well.
Okay.
Um, I work in association with a sales training company to provide free sales training, a free sales training to companies that have lots of sales meetings and they're looking for a speaker. And then we have an online product that I can offer if they allow me to offer it to the people who are in those sales meetings.
Okay.
Ties me back into my sales career.
Right.
I speak, so I have a number of different topics I speak on to any group who likes or wants or needs a speaker. One of them is on kind of the what I talked about at the beginning of coaching people. You know, are you living at capacity? Are you living at your peak? Because those are two different places. Helping networking skills, building community. A few of the topics that I talk about. Who are people being? I think humanity is going to continue to grow, and the trends moving forward with all the tech and automation we have. People want some humanity,
Right. Yeah.
and we saw that again emerge in COVID, and then it kind of died down. But I think people still really crave that humanity.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Personal interaction.
yeah.
Your point on, I wanted to quickly just reiterate the power of what you're doing with it makes people more productive for sure, which clearly, is valuable for everybody. But that we're so busy, we don't have the time. We're so reactionary right now that we're all putting out fires, and our time gets away from us, and we're not being intentional. And having the skills, training people with the skills on how to find that that time is crazy important, more than any time in history right now. So that's probably an incredibly valuable service that you can provide.
People believe that they can't do it because it's a pattern you've been in for a long time.
Right. Limiting beliefs.
You can't change this, but you can, and you don't have to give everything up to change it. So I want people to know that. And then as for legacy, building a business is part of my legacy, and then learning more about investments and how to invest wisely. I'm technically retired, but not really retired.
Right.
But I don't want to stop making money, and I don't want to stop investing just
Right.
because of that technical retirement point.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that most of us don't get. We don't get a lot of investment education or training. We follow the mainstream or traditional paths, which are pretty outdated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of bonds. Yeah. Well, how's that been for the last couple decades? Right. It's
yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of what got me into here is when I started looking at our investments, I realized, wow, these are not good. And I started looking at other people and educating myself about that. And that's what brought me into real estate. And then which branch of real estate has the best risk adjusted returns out there. And anyway, so that's something we all can continue to work towards as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Learning about what are the areas you want to invest in moving forward, because we are so trained to the stock market and bonds as the only source of investing, but there's other ways to invest.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I mentioned this earlier is before the show is alternative investments are actually mainstream for almost all of the big, most successful and savviest investment groups out there. So yeah, that's diverse streams of income is all very important for the Holy Grail portfolio.
Yeah.
So reflecting on your journey, this is one of my favorite questions I like to ask people as we wind up. What do you wish you knew about building wealth or success earlier in your career?
I wish I had understood, actually even in corporate, the value of having both a mentor and a sponsor.
Okay.
So
expand on that?
Part of your network, I think I come from a generation that was taught, well, if you work hard and produce results, you'll get all the rewards.
Right.
And then particularly when you're in a large corporate environment, you start to realize at some point that I'm not sure that's true.
Right.
And I think women in particularly think that, like, I've got my head down, I'm working, I should get promoted. And then you look up and it's like, Bob just got promoted. Where'd he come from?
Right. Yeah.
And
I like that analogy. You have to periodically, like regularly, you got to put your head down and grind, but then you got to periodically look up and reevaluate where you're headed and how things are going.
yeah, I was in a meeting. I was in a role, and my manager left, and he knew I wanted to be in a management role. And
Okay.
the company I work for would do this candidate identify thing, which basically tells you they picked somebody already.
Okay. Right.
And he calls me and tells me he's going to this other job, and he says, my job's going to be open, but we have a candidate identified. So I actually didn't even apply for it because I'm like, why am I going to waste my time going through the whole interview rigmarole? And I know they've already picked somebody. So, I ended up working with this person as my manager. He was okay, nothing personal to him. So we were sitting with a customer who was a really tough person. And she said, so why do you have this job, basically? And he was like, well, I went to this college, and when I was in college, I was a golf caddy, and I met. No, I'm telling you, but this is how the inside story works that people don't know about. I met this man. So this man that he named was like one of our senior vice presidents. And he goes, when I get ready to graduate from college, he goes, hey, if you want to start in medical sales, there's a job. You want to start this job opening down in Florida or somewhere? And he was like, sure. He was a young guy, whatever. So he entered the company that way. Again, nothing personal, nothing about his performance,
Right.
but he was all set up with someone on the inner circle, and probably not just that senior vice president, but other people in that circle. So when the job came up and he was married and he was from the area and he wanted to move back, she went.
Right.
And that's part of how, it just honestly, people can say it's neutral. It's not.
No, it's not. There's a lot of those biases. I was explaining that to my daughter recently. Some of it's familiarity that you use different factors that make you choose different people to work with.
Yeah.
And is it biased? Yes.
Yes. The fact of it is biased. Is there a secret? Is there a network? Are there behind the scenes conversations or opportunities? I think like women might struggle with guys get invited to come out and golf with people or whatever, and women don't get those invitations unless they push themselves into them usually. But a lot of times it's on those golf trips or the golf course, dinner afterward, where these conversations happen and people are being set up for roles, or where they're getting known, so then their name's being mentioned when they're not in the room. And
it's the relationship again, though, right?
It's the relationship, yeah. And I'm not saying they're bad people for doing it. I'm just saying everyone's not always having access to that circle.
Sure.
And figuring out what the circle is part of it.
Yes.
And then getting access to it, and even asking someone if they'll be a mentor or a sponsor. Yes. The mentor to guide you, the sponsor really is the person that's talking about you when you're not in the room.
Right. And pointing out where you should be, where you're not.
Yeah. And even if it means having both of those people be honest with you, saying this isn't right for you, or this isn't the time for you, or whatever, is of value. And that's something I didn't understand.
Right. Can you talk a little bit into the difference between a sponsor and a mentor in that situation?
So, to me, a mentor is that person that takes you and teaches you and brings you along, maybe teaching you skills, maybe teaching you things about the culture, maybe saying, hey, here's how you want to present yourself. If you want to elevate to the next level, or if you want to be the best, hey, let's take a look at your presentation. Let's take a look at how you're doing this or that. Let's take a look at what you're thinking about for your career as next steps.
a guide on a path they've already taken.
They've already taken, or that they can see.
Okay, right.
And I think a sponsor is someone who you get to know and takes you under their wings, and they're actually helping you get elevated to those places. So they're talking about you when you're not there. They're looking at the org chart saying, I think this is a good place Gina might fit in. And speaking your name, as well as talking to you about how to prepare yourself for it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Great advice. Great advice for everybody at all stages. That's something that took me a while to appreciate is the more successful you are, the more coaches you have, the more mentors you have. Right. You used to think that, that's only for when you're starting out. And as you're successful, you're supposed to figure it out on your own. You're successful now, but actually like the best quarterbacks in the NFL, Tom Brady has like 9 coaches, right? He has a trainer, he has the head coach, he has like 2 quarterback coaches, he has the offensive coach. They're all, the more successful you are, they leverage even more help to get even better.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, because we look at that in sports and people go, yeah, that's reasonable. But it's also beginning to be more of a culture for business people that, you've got I'm a coach, but even before I became a coach, outside of not a sports coach, but, I believe in coaching. I had a trainer, I had a swim coach, because those are people who know what I don't know.
Yep.
And they can look at what I'm doing and give me advice on how to correct it or how to optimize it. And that's what coaches do. It's not even, and helping me pull out of myself what's already there that I do know, but I'm just not seeing.
Right. And the return on those investments is crazy. That's what Benjamin Franklin quote, right? Something to the effect of the best investment is in yourself or your own education.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people don't see investing in themselves at all. They haven't come to understand the value of that yet.
Right. Some of the rules of 10% tithing, 10% investment in yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, that it pays orders of magnitude for itself in the future.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great. For our listeners who want to learn more about you or connect, where can they find you?
So they can find me on my website, which is very simple, GinaRSmith.com. I will just make a note. It's going to be under development soon, but you can get on there now.
Sure.
I'll also give you 2 links, a link that you can drop in the show notes where if people just want to have a 30-minute conversation with me, no obligation, no sales. Let's just talk and get to know each other. And they can schedule a conversation on my calendar. And then thirdly, if people want a free resource, it's called Your Health is Your Wealth. And it's just 6 ways you can make your health your wealth. The 2 things are attached. People think they have later for their health, but they don't. So do it now.
Right. Okay. Great stuff. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much, Gina, for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing all your insights and your story.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.